Greetings, my friends. Reform Stoic here. Okay, so we are going to take on Breaking Bad. I just finished my third viewing through of the entire series. I'm honestly really tempted to just rewatch the entire fifth season to just kind of get that double whammy of the ending. There's a very good chance that's going to happen. So I was nervous making this video. As always, I'm not really a reviewer. This is an old series. I'm sure there's plenty of high rated review channels that have thoroughly broken down this entire series. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it. Take it or leave it. A little outline of my plan here is very simple. I'm going to focus on the fifth season for the most part. But I'm going to go ahead and start from the beginning. And let's just go ahead and get it going. So, season 1, going into my third viewing, I was tempted to skip season 1 because I thought I just knew it like the back of my hand. And I've already seen the entire series twice. I felt like maybe I was going to selectively view through the series, and that definitely didn't happen. Now, I will say when I got to season 3, I thought season 3 took a little bit of a pace. The pace slowed down a little bit, and more than anything, that's probably because it was my third viewing. But season 1 went down smooth, like high class scotch. It blew my mind that it was in the pilot episode where Pinkman and Walt are on the RV, being held hostage by those guys, and Walt kills them with the whatever the gas was that he made. I couldn't believe that was in the pilot episode. I remember that taking like most of the season. It definitely became clear to me over the course of the show that there's a lot of things that I didn't remember very well. And I was kind of embarrassed, like, especially when I got to the fourth and fifth season. It just blew me away how many things I didn't remember properly. So first season is fun. Season 1 and 2 are definitely the funnest seasons of the show. Season 1, just getting into the business, sneaking around. Walt hadn't been caught yet. I can already say I liked Pinkman this time. I've told you guys in the past that I hated Pinkman. I have not watched El Camino again yet. I already saw it once, and I told people I didn't really like it. I just think that this was my first mature viewing of the show. I think I'm a better viewer at this point. Getting off of weed, guys, I can't stress it enough. It's working miracles for me. Television is better. So season 1, epic. A lot of people say it's their favorite season. I can understand. It's a feel-good season. Love Tuco. Lots of laughs. Maybe the most laughs are going to be in season 1 and season 2. Now, the best way to navigate through this review is making sure I remember every finale. Season 1 finale, they got kidnapped by Tuco. He's obviously completely unstable and paranoid. I always kind of remembered that finale being somewhat labored, meaning like almost like boring or frustrating. You're just watching them be held hostage the entire time. But I enjoyed it. Great finale. Hank shows up and he finds Pinkman's car and aces all the guys there. Good stuff. Season 1's over. Now we're in season 2. Season 2, I think I could see the argument for people liking season 1 better. I'll tell you what was arguably my least favorite part of the show is Pinkman's girlfriend. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I just felt like there was something lacking there, that there was something to be desired. Maybe it wasn't the show's fault. It was my inability to relate to a couple of druggies who, are speedballing and just... I felt maybe her character wasn't built up enough, but you know what? As the show went on, by the time that Pinkman finds the cigarette butt in his car, it becomes an important plot piece for sure. It grew on me throughout the seasons while it was happening. And again, this is my third viewing. So that was maybe something that I felt like, okay, and you feel helpless because you know what's going to happen. And this is probably a very common thing, rewatching movies, rewatching shows. You just wish that the same tragedy wouldn't happen over and over and over again. You wish that Walt and Pinkman wouldn't get stuck in the desert. You know what I mean? When the RV doesn't start because Pinkman leaves the keys in the ignition. But overall, season 2, I definitely liked it every bit as much as season 1. I probably liked it more than season 1. Once I get to season 5, I'll give you kind of my review of the pacing of the show, and I'll compare it to Better Call Saul. I'm not going to say much about Better Call Saul in this review, but watching Breaking Bad again makes me appreciate Better Call Saul more. I definitely see myself rewatching Better Call Saul again, but I got to be careful because you know you're going to want to fire up Breaking Bad right after, and then El Camino. So, what else is there to be said about season 2? It's right along with season 1 where it's the funniest, feel good. I like the street hustling, you know? The Tuco's gone. They're trying to figure out how they're going to keep moving the product. I like, you know, Combo and Badger. Badger's great, comic relief. You know, Walt is like running this genius operation. And then you contrast it with Badger. And then obviously in the beginning of the show, Pinkman's in over his head. And then you start to see how it's like, wow, Pinkman is like learning how to replicate Walt's recipe. Good stuff. So season 2 finale, Skyler catches on. So this is a good time to review, like, what do I think about Skyler, the family? A lot of people say that in rewatching the show, you start, like, I feel like a lot of people don't like Pinkman and they don't like Skyler the first time through. Third time through, you start to see it differently. You start to see how Walt is the bad guy. Walt is ultimately, you know, pulling Pinkman into this. Yeah, Pinkman was already selling meth, but he was just kind of like, you know, an insecure, troubled kid. Maybe could have found his way out of it. He ends up going to rehab and getting clean after his girlfriend dies, and then, you know, Walt's keeping him in the business. So it's hard to not dislike Skyler once you get through how she acts in season 3, but rewatching it now, understanding the show on a deeper level, I can level with Skyler. Obviously, you know, it's not till later in the series when she starts doing her dramatic stuff, like falling in the pool. At no point do I think it's bad acting. I will say, if you don't like Skyler, you can't pin it on the acting being bad. She's doing a great job playing the character. If anything, it's a dislikable character. All the acting in the show is great. This show captivates my attention like nothing else. Okay, so season 3 now. Skyler's catching on. Their relationship is starting to fall apart. And one of my favorite episodes, after just having season 5 so fresh in my mind, it's hard to say anything outside of season 5 is my favorite. And I think that's the mark of a truly masterpiece show, is when the final season is the best season. But season 3, I feel like the RV, when Walt and Pinkman are in the RV and Schrader rolls up, Hank rolls up, that is definitely top 3 moments or episodes for me. That's just amazing. The energy, you know, the force behind Hank versus the force behind Walt. I love Hank's style where he doesn't do things by the books. You know, he's knocking on doors. He's always pushing the law. You know, as much as Walt is this criminal mastermind, Hank is like the Shield. You know, he's like the guy in the Shield where he is just dirty a little bit, but not like criminal dirty. Like, he really cares about the law. He really wants to put drug dealers away. And you see how he's becoming obsessed with the Heisenberg case. They want him in El Paso. Obviously, he witnesses that bomb on the Tortuga, the turtle with the guy's head on it. But they want him in El Paso, and he doesn't want to be there. He wants to keep going, and he has his problems with the DEA because they don't see where he's coming from on this stuff. But he's right on it. He is right on their ass the entire time. And then when they phone in the phony call that his wife is in the hospital, that's just so passionate, powerful. When he goes into Pinkman's house and he throws Pinkman, he just knocks Pinkman out and beats his face in. My wife? How did you know my wife? Who are you? Who do you work for? Powerful shit, man. The contrast of these energies. It's like, as always, you know me, Dragon Ball Z shit. The power behind Hank, the power behind Walt, an epic clash. So after Hank, they attempt the assassination on Hank, that's where I think the show starts to reach its most, I don't want to say boring. I love the entire show. But I'll go ahead and break down my pacing of the show, and I'll compare it to Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul was the first 2 seasons were boring, arguably. I'll bet I'll enjoy it more the second viewing. Now I will give my full attention to Better Call Saul. I believe I was still smoking weed when I started the show. Next time I watch Better Call Saul, I'll probably appreciate those first 2 seasons a lot more. But first 2 seasons are slow, building up to season 3, which is arguably the best, and then it sine waves right back down. I don't really remember Trig that well at this point, so I'm pretty sure it's a sine wave. It dips right back down to the lowest season, 4 being the lowest season, and then it goes back up through season 5, and then it builds up to season 6, which is absolutely epic, and then in my opinion it totally flops and drops the ball with the black and white finale episodes. I think I was a little bit overdramatic in my review, which I privated of that. But yeah, ultimately, I did not like the season finale of Better Call Saul. Now, the pacing of Breaking Bad. Season 1 and 2, arguably the best seasons, not in my opinion. Amazing seasons, golden television. Sine waves down a tiny bit, a little bit of a dip in season 3. The assassination attempt on Hank, that was like a mini finale, arguably. That was like season finale worthy. It's that moment when Hank goes into the hospital where I feel like things start getting a little bit slow. I was telling people before my third watch through that I kind of just thought Fring was boring. Now, I was blown away by season 4. So let's go ahead and finish out season 3. Season 3 finale is killing, what's his name? Gil Bediger? Was that him, Bediger? The assistant in the meth lab. That's Walt White's ace in the hole to stay alive. He has Pinkman kill, I think his last name was Bediger. Whatever the curly hair meth lab assistant guy, he caps him, making it necessary to keep Walt alive. So, and now we're closing out season 3. Season 4. So, man, once you get the whole gang from Better Call Saul in the show, once Mike is in the picture, obviously it all starts with Saul, Mike, Fring, you just really appreciate the supplemental story that's added from Better Call Saul. You realize how, what's his name is in the wheelchair, as always, kind of bad with names. All right, I got some alarms going off here. Just got my dandelion root tea. No harm here. Just going to pull out this tea bag and in the garbage. And we got a potato in the air fryer. I'll just let that sit when it's done. Okay, season 4. So, like I said before I got into this third viewing, I just felt like the whole Fring arc was not boring, but a low point in the show. I did not remember season 4. And in fact, I feel like this is probably the season that I would do the least amount of justice right now. I could probably justify starting from season 4 again till the end. And there's like an 80% chance that's going to happen. I'll give myself a little breather and run season 4 to the end. Because now Walt and Pinkman are really getting into the swing of things with Fring. But they're getting this vibe that they're basically slaves and that their clock is ticking. And it's a shame. I'm going to have to just kind of brush over this season because I feel like so much happened and I feel like it was just about my first time. I mean, a lot of it was like the car wash and the family relations. And then obviously, you know, Hank is just right on Walt's ass. Some of the things that were like hard for me to watch is with when Hank is having Walt drive him and he wants to go discover the lab. That is maybe like the least believable part of the series for me. It's believable though. The entire story works. The story is flawless, as is. But and then you have to keep in mind that through the entire series leading up to Walt's getting found out by Hank, Hank had no idea it was Walt. He was not suspicious of him the entire time. So when Walt crashes the car and throws the investigation into the meth lab, Hank has no idea. He thinks he's an idiot. Frankly, I think he just he feels bad for Walt. This whole ruse, you know, his wife is disgusted with him. Like he's a genius, but he's a gambling addict. Eventually, they discover the affair. He thinks that Walt is a klutz. He feels bad for him. Walt plays into that in season 5 when he's setting up the bugs in his office. So, yada yada. Season finale. They take out Fring. Epic. Love season 4. Season 4, I mean, if you're comparing 1, 2, and 4, I think season 1 and 2 are just like really feel good, if you can say that. I mean, you know, there's like people dying and there's some pretty intense peril, but the peril only gets more intense as the show goes on. Plenty of peril in season 3, even though I think it was the slowest. Okay, there's the potato. We'll just leave it. And then season 4, lots of peril. Epic. They take out Fring. The cartel stuff across the border was epic. I liked Pinkman, you know, not being a chemist like they expected, but he knows the formula, and the formula is all that matters. The cook method, the assassination at the pool, all good stuff. Fring's a badass, dude. I officially like Fring. I like everybody from Better Call Saul. I like Better Call Saul. I've digested it now after watching this, and I'm gonna have to watch Better Call Saul again. Season 5. Hands down. I mean, is it the best season? This is where we start getting into like some philosophical value theory here. I mean, for a lot of people, you know, your average show, especially if it's like a sitcom, like let's compare it to Friends. Let's just be batshit crazy here and compare Breaking Bad to Friends. Friends, the first 4 seasons are gold tier. First 6 seasons, if you're a hardcore fan, is like pretty good. Show starts to jump the shark in season 7, and then by the time you get to season 9, it's just like I just don't even really like the show anymore. Season 10 is garbage. But it's not a sitcom. And I think when you have a good action show like this, what makes it a masterpiece is when they wrap it up in the perfect way. Now let me start talking about some of this pleading that I was feeling. Some of the pleading is like, man, it just didn't have to be this way. I feel like the show would be just about every bit as legendary if it had a happy ending. And you could even make the argument that it would have been more ballsy, because ultimately this ending for Breaking Bad was kind of the classic traditional crime does not pay. You see it in Goodfellas, But the ending of Goodfellas is like, hey, what can I say? I was a gangster. Hey, it's not. This season finale is like, you could make the argument, I could make the argument, probably nobody agrees that, okay, it's the typical, arguably played out crime doesn't pay. But they drag you in the dirt. They drag you in the dirt. I'm going to try to get as many details leading up to Hank discovering Walt. Because every moment after Hank discovers that it's Walt, when he finds the poetry book, it's just nonstop. It's just nonstop. Hank is one of my favorite characters, right behind Mike. It's time to get some Mike love in the show, man. I've been working on my Mike impression. He has the energy of like an old, tired janitor. It's like, hey, look, I want to go home and push my daughter on the swing. I don't have time for this, Walt. I don't have time for this, Walt. And he just looks like he's just annoyed and laborsome. And he's always sighing, I gotta do what I gotta do. And then he like caps 50 people with a silencer. And he's like the most effortless, professional assassin, private security guy ever. Mike is my spirit animal on my most high test days. I love Mike. He's my favorite character. Better Call Saul only deepens that to where I just gotta go out and say, bro, one of the things I did not remember is the circumstances behind Mike getting killed by Walt. It was like the inner social justice warrior soy boy in me. It's like, but Mike tried to kill Walt once. But Mike kills people. It was like Walt Jr. My dad kills people. Like, I did not remember the way things went down, bro. Mike was just trying to get out. And Walter White killed my man, Mike, in cold blood. And then true blue to the very end of Mike's life, Walter, shut up and let me die in peace. Absolute legend. Please, makers of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, please make Mike origin stories. I need more Mike. And that's going back to me pleading for the alternate ending. The alternate ending is that, Hank gets out of the business, Pinkman gets out of the business. You have some sort of a ride off into the sunset ending where Walt and Pinkman are like smiling at each other and looking down and trying not to, and there's like a hug. There's like an awkward hug. And then Mike is like, are you sure, Walt? Okay. Hey, you take care. And Mike's okay and Walt's okay and Pinkman's okay. And there's just maybe like the ending scene of the show is like some witty banter between Walt and Hank, and everything's okay, and it's a happy ending. I would have loved that show. That show is more rewatchable than this one, because this ending is tragedy, and I want to talk how it evokes some of the elements of rape and revenge movies. You ever seen rape and revenge movies? Like, the one that I'm thinking of is like, what's the one with the girl where she gets raped and then she's a girl killer? There's a bunch of rape and revenge movies. They're really gritty. They're really nasty. They're on all these like most disturbing movies ever lists, but there's a really gritty murder, usually involving rape, and then there's revenge. And it really just intensifies this revenge. But that's the very end of the season. We're not quite there yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, my boy Mike gets done dirty. I love Saul the entire show. What else is there to say about Saul? I feel like he comes off more like human and tempered in Better Call Saul, but you can kind of understand that for how things ended with his girlfriend, before the black and white bullshit started. You can see that like a piece of him died with his girlfriend, who was the love of his life, and he's hardened, and by the time he pops up in Breaking Bad, he's kind of this carefree, lawyer guy who's witty every time he comes into the interrogation room. I love all of his banter with the police, especially with Hank. Like, hey, Rocky, keep that left up. Love Saul. Okay, so here we are. Hank discovers the poems. Now, before that, you have to wonder, it's like, this is when you realize that Walt is like losing his mind. This is where you realize that Walt is becoming evil. Low-key, he did my boy Mike dirty. Mike didn't need to die. Mike's a professional. I don't think Mike would have ratted on anybody. That's not how Mike is. That's not how Mike does business. That was the low-key, like, real finale, dude. That was the real finale. He killed Mike in cold blood. Mike! Okay. It's 4:44 in the morning. Let's try not to yell. So, the methylamine. They have the opportunity to, everybody gets $5 million. Everybody goes and buys a McMansion, and they chud out with their $5 million retirement. And you know what? It's like, who the hell are you, Walter White? That's when you start to realize, low-key, it was when he killed Mike. But, well, he didn't kill Mike till after that. So actually, that was before he killed Mike. That's when you start to realize, who in the hell are you? His marriage is broken. His family is broken. Walter White, you have to realize, after you've seen the show a couple of times, he's in the wrong. And this is where he really is in the wrong. But what I started to realize is like, well, he got busted because Hank found that poetry book that had whatever Bediger's signature in there. And I start to think, really, man, you're not gonna comb everything with a fine-tooth comb. You're gonna make a small mistake like that. And then I started debating, is this unbelievable? Is this a silly way to get caught? No. The moral of the story is that Walter White was losing his mind. He's getting caught up in the game. He loves being Heisenberg. He was becoming hardened. He'd killed people. He blowed people's brains out. He killed those gangsters looking out for Pinkman. He had become a criminal in the truest sense of the word. And he's too good for $5 million because he's too much of a businessman. He's thinking about all that money he can make, cooking up the methylamine. So he cooks up the methylamine, and, they have the time lapse, and then that's when there's the big stack of money in the storage facility, which for some reason I remembered happening in, like, season 3 or season 4. I didn't remember that was until the 5th season. I was blown away by how much I didn't remember about season 4 and season 5. It's happening. I'm watching season 4 till the end again. It's just like a low... you can do this with any show that you love. You want to get that same payoff at the end, but you don't have time to like rewatch the entire series. I'm gonna rewatch from season 4 till the end again because this has got to be my favorite show ever. So, okay, so he makes the money. He makes the extra money not selling the methylamine. It ends up being like $88 million in that storage facility, and I debated it in my head, and it's like, you know what? He wouldn't have got out. He would have got busted anyway, likely. I mean, I guess you could throw some bullshit together. It's like, oh, he gets out, and then when he's getting out, he's like, okay, I'm out. Let's scrape the house with a fine-tooth comb. And he gets rid of the books, and he burns all the evidence. Okay, you could probably make the argument that he would have got away with it if he just sold the methylamine. They all take their $5 million. They all leave happy. And then, the cue my alternate version of the show. He's having drinks with Pinkman and Mike, and he's got his awkward little smile, and he does the handshake with Pinkman, and then they go for a hug, and then that's it. Everybody's happy. I would have loved that show. But what happens from now we're reviewing this is just what makes the show what it is. It brought tears to my eyes, whimpered a little bit, but once Hank finds the poetry book, wow. Wow, 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 wow. If you don't think this is the best show in the world, that is the best, like, cinema ever. Like, that moment until the end. Hank can't believe it. He crashes the car. He immediately pulls out all the paperwork because you gotta love Hank as a DEA agent. It's not about the money to him. It's not about the status. He becomes obsessed with hunting down Heisenberg. And yes, you got to look at the arrogance of Walt. Walt makes those comments like, I think this guy's just a sidekick. He's not a mastermind because he's jealous. He loves what he's done. He's proud of what he's done. It's this bad guy, Walt. And then he gets punched in the face by Hank, and he tells him to tread lightly. Some of the most powerful scenes is like the diner with Skyler and Hank. Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? And it's just so powerful. The family elements where it's starting to become clear to Hank that Skyler is not going to sell out Walt. And I'm probably not going to be able to do everything justice for all of these moments because it's just all so golden. I saw some of the hints of time lapse that pissed me off in Better Call Saul. I didn't like the time lapse or popping back and forth between forward and back in time. I didn't like the way that wrapped up in Better Call Saul, but I like the way they used it in Breaking Bad. He buys the submachine gun or whatever at the beginning of season 5, and then you see that that's actually the end of the show. I liked that. That was classy, brilliant. Season 5 is 11 out of 10, boys. Okay. So once they start getting involved with whatever these guys who got the swastikas, I'll just call them the Nazi guys because they got swastika tattoos. Once they get involved with those guys, it's becoming very clear that Walter White is gone. He's lost in the game. Pinkman is still a good person. Pinkman wants out as soon as that kid dies. He loses his mind. He's throwing money out the window. He wants to give money to the family. And, oh man, how am I going to possibly do this justice, bro? They lure Walt out the road to where the money's buried, and the way they do it, where he calls the boys. He's calling the boys. He's telling them to come there. Walt calls the guys to come kill Pinkman. And he calls it off. He says, never mind. It's over. Forget it. Call it off. If it's your first time watching through the show, there's a very good chance, I mean, it's predictable. I'd say there's like a 2/3 chance that when those trucks roll up at the end, you're like, oh, shit. I forgot about them. Like, you think that maybe the end of the show is going to be Hank taking Walt to prison. Those guys roll up, and what do they got? Like, automatic shotguns? What the hell were those guns, bro? There's, like, shotgun shells coming out. It's like a semi-automatic shotgun. I think that was, like, a fully automatic shotgun. Bro, they got the illegal altered weapons. These guys are nasty. These swastika tattoo boys with their illegal modded weapons and shit. Oh, man. And it's just so foreboding leading up to that, showing how dirty they are when they're at the diner and stuff. These are the guys who kill Hank. And obviously, when Hank dies, powerful. What can I say? How much can I soy out about it? It's got to be the best. It's got to be the best TV series ever, guys. For me, maybe if you're older and you've seen earlier stuff, like whatever, bro. For me, this is the best cinema ever. Part of me wishes that it had like the dude bro, everybody wins ending, crime pays, LMAO. Part of me wishes that was the ending. Because this is not that rewatchable. Not because like it's boring, because this is where the rape and revenge stuff. Like, you hit rock bottom, okay? This is Walt's world getting torn to pieces. This is the beginning of his world crashing, and it's ugly. It's got horror movie, torture porn, rape and revenge vibes. but they're very tasty with it. I'm glad they didn't show graphic depictions of Pinkman getting tortured. But he's like, oh yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I can get it out of him if I bring him back to the place. You're like, oh shit, Pinkman's going to get tortured. Walt goes over to him. I watched your girlfriend die, which I caught on to this time. And that's actually where you first realize, because, I read some Reddit discussions and they talk about how you start realizing that Walt is the bad guy when you watch through a couple of times. I realized that, he could have saved Pinkman's girlfriend. And, what the hell is wrong with you, Walt? Mike! Okay, whatever. Rip Mike, dude. You think Mike's gonna be in heaven, guys? I want to see Mike in heaven, dude. Okay. Let's not get lost here. So this is rock bottom. One of the most powerful moments in the show is when the DEA is with Skylar and the family. And, this is after he took the baby. This is after, the knife fight and he gets slashed. And that's powerful. That is a powerful Skylar moment where she grabs the knife. Because you realize, I still think, Walt Jr., my dad kills people. That was still kind of annoying. But I gotta tell you, man, when Skylar grabs the knife and says, leave now, that is real woman power. Mama lion, get the fuck away from my kids, you monster. This has gone on long enough. And at that point, I'm siding with the family. I'm siding with Skylar. He has become a monster. He has become a shell of himself. It's the sin of pride. He's too damn good at what he does. He needed this, as he says at the end. He did it for himself. But we'll get there. The phone call. This is powerful shit when he's like, Hank crossed me and I'll kill you and anybody else and you better be careful. And he sounds like a demon. He sounds like a monster. It's the absolute pinnacle. It's the final burnout of the monster that Walt had become. And my jaw is dropped and it's like, who are you? And you're making your family cry and you stole the baby and you shouldn't have taken the baby. And at this point, this is why you have to see this show a couple of times. Because your first view, you're going to be like, no, they betrayed Walt and blood is thicker than water. And yeah, Hank double-crossed you. It's like, no, at this point, it's interesting how this show is kind of emulating a meth addiction. Because you're losing your mind right along with Walt. Anybody who doesn't binge watch the series from the point that Hank realizes it's Walt, dude, there's something wrong with you. I basically just pulled an all-nighter, almost, kind of. My sleeping schedule's in flux right now. Man, oh man. So that is the burning out of Walt's demonic flame. So this is where the show just really pays off, man. These last couple of episodes, just absolutely flawless finale. Flawless finale. He goes into the witness protection stuff through Saul, and time lapses, and oh my gosh, man. Good stuff with the rich people and leaving the money to them, but when he has that discussion with Skylar for the last time and he sees his baby for the last time and he tells Skylar that he did it for him, it's just among the most beautiful stuff in cinematic history. He loves his family and he was overcome by his pride. And he sounded like a bloodthirsty animal. He sounded like a demon rattling the bars of a cage on that phone call. And then, all that time passes and he comes down. And you're just thinking about the tragedy and their losses and everything he's lost. And, I feel like I'm missing something here. But it's just powerful stuff. And then we get to the revenge point of the rape and revenge. Pinkman's been getting tortured for months. Pinkman is a slave to these people. Like, you know, if you're the kind of person who gets disturbed by like torture movies, it's like, yeah, Pinkman is not having a good time for a long time. I might go ahead and fire up El Camino after this. But yeah. Walt, finally, the humanity's coming back, and it's like, one, these guys could potentially kill his family. He's got to take these boys out, and he's got to save Pinkman. The plot with the machine gun and the trunk of the car, absolute genius. Obviously, Walt is a genius. Maybe that's up there for some of the most unbelievable stuff. You know, that's kind of that classic, like, why don't they just put a gun to his head and kill him right then and there? But, like I said, I buy it. It's believable the way it went down. He tells him, like, you know, he betrayed him, and he invokes that Pinkman wasn't dead, and he brings Pinkman up and shows him that he's not a partner. And all Walt needed for his plan was those car keys. So he gets the car keys back, tackles Pinkman to the ground, and, you know, whatever that machine gun was, it was top level shit. It shot through the walls, levels everybody out. And I mean, what can I say, man? That's the show. Pinkman gets away. They give each other their little nod. They'd been through hell and back. Ultimately, it's time for Walt. You know, it was like Walt coming clean. Walt had sinned profusely. He was in the wrong, and he did everything he could to make it right. And when that song plays at the end, and Walt is on the ground looking at the ceiling, it's haunting. It's haunting. Everybody who watches this show tends to watch it at a furious pace. You're practically binge watching the entire time. And it just kind of left me like, wow, like, oh, I'm a human being who has a real life, and like, oh, I'm not a character in this show, and like, oh, this isn't my life, and how in the hell do I feel this way after this being my third viewing? So, and you know, I'll think about the whole, like, I'm gonna watch it again from season 4, season 5. That might not happen. We'll see what happens. 42 minutes, guys. 42 minutes. And you know what? I gotta pat myself on the back. Last thing I wanted to say is I was tempted to give the show a standing ovation by myself. And I mean, I definitely stood up after that credit roll. I mean, that show will always captivate a part of my memory. The acting is flawless. Everybody did a great job. It's a masterpiece. Breaking Bad is a masterpiece. Better Call Saul, you know, I'm about to watch The Hobbit. I've never seen the Hobbit series. I'm looking at the reviews. All of the Lord of the Rings got 8.8 out of 10. Breaking Bad got like 9.6 out of 10, by the way, which I mean, hey, it's a TV series. Yeah, Lord of the Rings were long movies, but a TV series, bro. It's got to be one of the best ever. One of the things I wanted to say is like, well, do I like drug dealers? Do I like meth? No, it's not. It's not like, oh, I'm a drummer and a philosopher. Oh, wow, there's a TV show about a drummer philosopher. It's my favorite show ever. It's not the content of the story that makes it my favorite show ever. It's just a good story. The thing about a good story is it's like, it could be full of things that maybe you don't really care about. Like, you know, once a time there was a sailor who lived in Kentucky. It's like, well, I don't care about Kentucky. I don't care about sailors, but it's a good story. And now, relevant to the kind of stuff I'm about, this gives you a pretty damn good overview of how organized crime works. You got the lawyers. You got the private security. Yeah, I know a thing or two about private security. It's relevant to my life. I'll just go ahead and throw out there that Gang Stalkers has a lot to do with private security and private investigators. But Mike, you know, Mike ain't like that. Mike's my boy. Yeah, you got the distribution. You got the manufacturing. I loved that, you know, they were using flower trucks. When the DEA was undercover, you can see it from the DEA side, how the DEA tails people, the interrogation methods of the police and the FBI. the tailing, the stalking, Fring, the cartel. You get a really good, honest overview of how an organized crime syndicate works and how intelligence syndicates work as well. You know, informants. And 45 minutes, guys. 45-minute rant about Breaking Bad. Like I was saying, I think I did good. But I was only able to do good because this show means the world to me. I definitely see myself watching it again, but I got to give it some time, guys. I watched it for the first time in 2020. I think I watched it again in 2021, and now I watched it again 2 years after that in 2023. I'm going to need like 5-10 years for the next viewing, but we'll see what happens. I can see myself watching it again in like 2 or 3 years from now. We'll watch Better Call Saul again first. That's it, you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and premiere this right now. Yeah. God bless. If you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't have watched this because I just spoiled the entire series. But, oh, man. God bless.